Now that you've had exposure to your first inferential statistics test, the independent and dependent t-test, there are many issues and matters that come up in statistics, and we thought it would be a good time to talk about those now before the statistics become too complicated. The first one we'll talk about has to do with experimental designs. We're going to talk about the distinction between group designs and within group designs.
The figure here illustrates a between groups design. We have a control group and we have an experimental group. The between groups design is such that each subject is a different person and each subject appears in only one level of X, the independent variable. So, for example, in this between groups design, you're a subject in either the control group or the experimental group. That's differentiated from a within groups design. We've already seen a between groups design with the independent t-test. The between groups design is differentiated from the within groups design. Notice here with the within groups design we have subjects and we have time 1 and time 2. In this case, a person appears in both levels of X, the independent variable, so people are measured across time. We've seen that in the dependent t-test.
This can be extended to where we have more than one independent variable. In this case, we have a between groups design with two independent variables. One is control and experimental, and one is sex. Each subject is a different person, and each subject is only in one cell of the design.
This design is referred to as a 2x2 between groups design. It's sex by experimental condition.
This is now within groups design with two independent variables. The independent variables are sex and time. The subjects will be measured at time 1 and time 2, but they are different subjects in the male and female independent variable. So each subject, of course, is a different sex, and each subject is measured at both times. This is a 2x2 mixed design, sex by time with repeated measures on time.
The designs can then be expanded even further. So in this example, we have a 2x3 design with 6 cells, 2 levels of the independent variable sex, male and female, and 3 levels of experimental condition, control, experimental condition 1, and experimental condition 2. Sex is a between subjects variable, and the other factor could be a between or a within. It could be people appear only in one cell, or the genders could cross over. Each person within gender might appear in the control group and the experimental 1 and experimental 2. For example, it might be experimental 1 consists of 1 dose, experimental 2 consists of a different dose of a medication, and the control group is no medication, and in that case a person could appear across all 3 levels of the experimental condition.
This example is just an extension of the number of levels of one of the independent variables. We can now go to an extension even further of the number of independent variables. In this case, we have 3. We have sex, we have control versus experimental, and we have dose 1 versus dose 2. Sex will be a between factor, but once again, the other factors could be either between or within repeated measures.
So in future chapters, we'll have designs that are between, within, and some mixed. But it's important you differentiate exactly where subjects appear in different aspects or different cells of a statistical model.